One of the people in these stories called the police 3 times in a single night, and by the time they finally believed her, the man had been living inside her walls for 11 days. These are 3 true stories from people who worked the night shift and what they found in the dark when everyone else had gone home. Stay till the end, because the last one involves a security camera that recorded something that should have been impossible, and nobody has explained it since. Let's start with Hannah, who was 19 and closing a chain pharmacy alone in a half-dead strip mall outside Tucson. Closing alone wasn't legal, technically, but the manager did it anyway to save labor hours, and Hannah needed the job. The routine was simple: lock the front doors at 10, count the register, sweep the aisles, set the alarm, leave through the back by 10:30. The first thing that felt wrong was small. She'd locked the front doors at 10 exactly. She remembered the click, but at 10:15, the little electronic chime that sounded whenever the front door opened went off. One soft beep. She froze with a broom in her hand and called out, "Hello, we're closed." Nothing. She walked to the front. Both doors were locked. The bolt was thrown from the inside. Here's the detail she couldn't shake later. The chime only triggers when a door physically opens and closes. It can't beep from a locked door, so either the system glitched or something had come in and the door had shut behind it, and that broom was about to become the least useful thing she was holding. Hannah did the smart thing first. She figured it was a glitch and decided to finish fast and get out, but as she swept toward the back of the store, she noticed the floor. She'd already swept aisle 9. She was meticulous, OCD about it. And now there were footprints in the thin dusting of floor cleaner she'd laid down. Wet, smeared, leading toward the stockroom. Not hers. Hers were behind her. These went forward into the dark part of the store where the lights were already off. She stopped breathing and listened. And that's when she heard it. A slow, deliberate dragging sound from the stockroom, like a boot scraping concrete, then stopping the instant she stopped moving. Whoever it was listening to her too. She backed toward the pharmacy counter, where there was a phone and a half door she could lock. She dialed 911 and whispered that someone was in the store. The dispatcher asked her to stay on the line, and as she crouched behind that counter, the dragging sound started again. But this time it was getting closer. One slow scrape at a time, and the overhead lights down aisle 9 began clicking off, one by one, as if someone was walking toward her and turning out the world behind them. The police took 8 minutes. To Hannah, it was a lifetime. When they arrived, they found the back stockroom door propped open with a brick, and behind a wall of stacked inventory in the storage loft, they found a nest, a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, a camping lantern, and dozens of photographs printed on the store's own photo machine of Hannah at the register, taken over what they estimated was 11 days. A man had been living in the ceiling storage space of that pharmacy for almost 2 weeks, coming down at night to watch her close. He'd memorized her routine. The footprints, the chime, the dragging. That was him moving between his hiding spot and the floor. He was never caught that night. He slipped out the propped door when the sirens started. But here's the part that still makes Hannah's skin crawl. When detectives examined the photos, several were taken from inside her car. He'd had a key. The manager, it turned out, kept a spare set of everything in an unlocked drawer. Hannah quit the next morning, and she says the worst feeling wasn't the fear in the moment. It was realizing that for 11 days she'd felt watched and told herself she was imagining it. She wasn't. But our next story takes that feeling somewhere far stranger. Now here's the reveal I promised you in the beginning, the one that pulls everything together, because it's the moment a rational person stopped being rational. Marcus worked maintenance overnight at an old county hospital, the kind with a sealed-off wing from the 70s that hadn't been used in decades. His job was the boiler, the floors that were still open, nothing in the dead wing. Except one night his radio caught a transmission that didn't belong. A nurse's voice, calm and clinical, requesting assistance in room 4 East. Marcus knew the hospital cold. There was no 4 East anymore. That whole floor was the sealed wing, lights off, doors chained, no power run to it in years. He told his supervisor, who shrugged it off as a crossed frequency. But then it happened again the next night. Same voice, same room. And this time, when Marcus walked past the stairwell to the dead wing, he saw light leaking under the chained door. Warm, yellow light from a floor that had no electricity. He stood there with his keys, and every instinct told him to walk away. Instead, and he can't fully explain why, he unlocked the chain. Because here's the counterintuitive thing about fear. Sometimes the not knowing is more unbearable than whatever's behind the door. And what he found behind that door rewired how he thinks about everything. The chain fell away, and Marcus pushed the door open into a hallway that impossibly had power. Not all of it, a few fluorescent tubes buzzing and flickering, but enough to see that the wing wasn't as abandoned as the records claimed. There was a folding cot in one room, a space heater, still warm, a camp stove, and a hospital radio, an old internal unit, sitting on a table, switched on. The nurse's voice wasn't a ghost. It was a recording, looping on a cheap player, broadcasting on the hospital's dead internal frequency. Someone had been squatting in the sealed wing for weeks, and the recording was a decoy, designed to make any curious staff member think it was a harmless radio glitch and stop investigating. It almost worked. But the reason it gives me chills is what Marcus found taped above the cot. A printed floor plan of the entire hospital with the night maintenance route highlighted in yellow marker. His route, his shift times, his name written at the top. The squatter hadn't been hiding from Marcus. He'd been studying him, waiting for the night he'd stop checking the dead wing for good. Marcus backed out, rechained the door, and called the police from the parking lot. They found the cot, the radio, the floor plan. They never found the man. And the last story is the one nobody can explain at all. Priya worked the overnight register at a 24-hour gas station off a rural highway, the kind of place where you might go 3 hours without a single car. The boredom was the job. To pass time, she watched the security monitors, 4 cameras, the lot, the pumps, the door, the back. Around 3 in the morning, the door camera showed a man standing just outside the glass, perfectly still, staring in at her. No car at the pumps. He'd come from nowhere, on foot, in the middle of empty desert highway. He didn't come in. He just stood there. She watched him on the monitor and through the glass at the same time, and that's when her stomach dropped. On the monitor, the man was standing maybe a foot from the door, but when she looked up at the actual glass, the lot was empty. There was no one there. She looked back at the screen. He was still on it, still staring, slowly tilting his head. She looked up. Empty. The camera was seeing something her eyes couldn't. And then, on the monitor, the man slowly raised one hand and pointed, not at her, but at the camera in the corner of the store, the one behind her. The one pointed at the back room, as if to say, look there instead. Priya did not turn around. She grabbed her phone, locked herself in the cashier cage, and called her manager, who told her to call the police, which she did. The cops came, swept the lot, the back room, the bathroom. Nothing. No man, no footprints in the dust outside the door, nothing. They figured she was exhausted, maybe half dreaming. Standard night shift hallucination, they said. Except the camera's record. So her manager pulled the footage the next morning to prove there was nothing there. And on the front door camera, for 9 straight minutes, there is a man standing outside, staring in. He has no shadow under the bright pump lights. No car ever arrives or leaves. And at the exact moment Priya described, he raises his hand and points toward the back camera. When they pulled the back room camera for those same 9 minutes, the footage is gone. Not corrupted, not black. Simply 9 minutes that don't exist on a system that recorded perfectly the hour before and the hour after. The company's tech support said it was impossible for a single camera to lose time while the others kept recording. Priya quit. The footage of the man still exists. Nobody has explained who he was, how he had no shadow, or what was happening in the back room during the 9 minutes the camera refused to see. 3 stories, 3 different places, but notice what ties them together. In every one, the person felt something was wrong long before they had proof. And in every one, they almost talked themselves out of it. Hannah told herself the chime was a glitch. Marcus's supervisor called the radio a crossed frequency. The police told Priya she was tired. That instinct, the prickle on the back of your neck when a room feels occupied even though it looks empty, is the oldest survival tool you have, older than language. And the through line of every real night shift horror story is the same. The danger was real, and the only thing standing between these people and something far worse was the moment they decided to trust the fear instead of explaining it away. 2 of them got out because they listened. The third got footage that still has no answer. If you take one thing from this, it's that. When the empty room feels full, when the locked door beeps, when the camera sees something your eyes can't, you don't owe anyone a rational explanation before you protect yourself. At the start, I told you the last story involved footage nobody has ever explained. And now you've seen it. 9 minutes of a man with no shadow, and 9 minutes the back camera simply refused to record. To this day, no one knows who he was or what he was pointing at. If stories like these, the true ones, the unexplained ones, the ones that make you check your own dark hallway tonight, are what you're here for, consider sticking around for the next one. Sleep well.